I'm here today with Crystal Hamilton, who is a mental health counsellor working in Washington State in the United States. She has a behavioural health agency and is working, specialising in religious trauma and couples therapy, and has a book coming out soon, which is something I'm very keen to speak to Crystal about. So, hi, Crystal.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here today. So, to start off with, can you tell me a little bit about why you went into mental health counselling?
So as an adolescent, I dealt with depression, and just really didn't have positive coping skills to deal with issues that were going on in my family. There was the typical stereotypical addiction family, where I was the quote unquote lost child in this family, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and when I was 20 years old, I worked in Upper Bound in Idaho. And you would spend the day in the classrooms with the kids, and then at night you would do activities with them as a counselor. And that's when I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be the counselor. I don't want to sit in a classroom and, worry about behavioral issues and teaching. I want to just kind of get down to the nitty gritty and what can I do to support these kids. So I worked at kids, adolescents for a couple years, and then I chose to move into only working with adults, which I prefer.
Okay, so that sounds like an interesting way to get to that position.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you tell me a little bit about the struggles that you've had with your own mental health?
I was diagnosed with clinical depression maybe 15 years old. So my brother had been in and out of drug rehab centers, and my parents and I just focused all our attention on him. So he was the scapegoat of the family. I was the lost child. And just a quick example, we focused so much on my brother that when my parents and I went out to dinner one time, we said, we're not talking about him. We're not talking about him. And so we just sat in silence because we didn't have anything else to talk about. So I learned how to be, I chose to be codependent. I grew up in a strict Mormon household that I just didn't agree with the teachings. I didn't agree with my role as only to be a mother and wife. I just felt there was more to it. I didn't agree with the patriarchal system, and that men have dominion over women. So that was kind of like the foundation that I had. And then I got into drugs, drinking, and then I went to grad school, and that's when I started having anxiety. I started having panic attacks. So I went to grad school for a master's in counseling at Antioch University in Seattle. And I feel like it was 3 years of intensive therapy, of dissecting my family of origin. And when I walked into grad school, I knew they were crazy. I just didn't know that I was. So I was able to turn that finger towards myself and really dissect it. And then the alcoholism progressed till a little bit after grad school. I got to a point where I couldn't drive on the freeway. I was having panic attacks. I became agoraphobic. So I really didn't drive on the freeway for 10 years. I was suicidal. When I was drinking, I would go to work and I was like, I didn't want to DUI because I'm a therapist. I can't do that. So I would drive home and just think about driving off the side of the road. I was like, there's no point to it. And then I would get home, down a few beers, have some cigarettes, scratch the tickets, and then everything was great again. And just did that over and over again until I got help through sober support programs. And then that's when I got sober, then I got to do some real strenuous emotional work, and the layers are always coming off.
Yeah, and it's a journey, and it is like we're a work in progress all the time.
Of course. Yeah.
So I know that you mentioned a few interesting things there. When you do train to be a therapist or a counsellor, there is that element of learning about yourself, and it brings out so much. And what would you say the main positives that you got out of that time were?
That I can only take my clients as far as I will go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I work on my own stuff, I'm able to put that mirror up and look at shortcomings that's coming up to my brain. I don't like that word. It's a sober support word. It's areas of growth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The attachment wounds that I had. So I really need to look at my attachment wounds. And what I loved in grad school was when you're sitting with someone and I feel triggered by them, kind of take a step back, look at it and say, is this my stuff? Is this their stuff? Is this our stuff? Right. And so really discerning between that.
Yeah. And sometimes that can be quite tricky. The separating out of what's their stuff, what's your stuff, and what's the combined stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you find it working as a counsellor with so many things that you were struggling with of your own? What was that like?
I moved population. So when I finished grad school and got sober, I was doing working in community mental health. That's 50 clients and maybe a handful doing therapy. The rest was like case management, and it was too emotionally draining on me. And I had a supervisor that worked in the geriatric population and going into adult family homes, going into group homes, into nursing facilities. And so I decided to go into that program, which relieves some of the emotional burden while sitting with someone else and holding their stuff. It was really difficult for me to do that. So when I went into working with older adults, I was able to focus on like the whole aspect of it. So we're looking at all the medical issues, right? And what can I do? I'm working with the caregivers and the PCPs, and it's more of a holistic approach. And I'm not just sitting down going through a trauma experience that another person had. So it was less taxing on me. And I did that only for like a few years, predominantly like 5 years. And then after that, after I did my own therapy, got sober for some time, I was able to sit with another person in traditional therapy and hold space for them. But even to this day, I only have a handful of clients that I do therapy with, insight-oriented therapy with, because I really want to make sure that I am being a support to the other person, and I'm not getting triggered or overwhelmed. Because if I meet, I know extroverted therapists that are able to meet with people 6-8 people a day or do family therapy. Oh, that's not me. I like it 4 people. 4 people is enough for me.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that your own experiences have contributed to your expertise as a counsellor? Mm.
Absolutely. When probably 2008, when I moved to the Seattle area, I remember working with adults that said that they had panic attacks. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so awful.
Mm.
I didn't get it though. Like I could sympathize, but I didn't get it until what is it? I was like 31. I started having panic attacks and how debilitating panic attacks are. And so now that I went through it, now I'm on the other side of it. I was like, I get it. Like I
Yeah.
truly, truly get it. Not that I tell
Mm.
my clients, it depends, right? Like with any
Mm.
counselor, with any client, is this my self-disclosure? Is this benefiting the client? So
Yeah.
if it benefits them, then I'll tell them, yeah, I had panic attacks. I haven't had them in years.
Mm.
But you get to the other side. There is an end to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the self-disclosure. I barely self-disclose with clients, but one thing that I will self-disclose on is the anxiety and panic attacks, particularly if they say to me, I know I'm being stupid,
Oh,
or
yeah.
I'm like, no, you're not being stupid, they're terrifying.
Yes.
And sometimes when I've said to them, I used to get these, and they're like, well, when was the last time you had one? And I say, well, about 10 years ago. And they're like, really? Like these will
Yeah.
go away, and that can be helpful.
Oh my gosh, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a reason why sober support 12-step programs work. It's because it's
Mm.
peer led. It's because
Yeah.
it's um, one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. So there is a trend in the mental health field. I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the US to get peer counselors because
Yeah.
it's just not, you don't learn this from a book, right?
Yeah. Over here we call it experts by experience. So,
Expert by experience.
mm.
Yeah.
Now that you've mentioned that you're doing a lot of work with the spiritual and religious trauma, can you tell me a little bit about what kind of things that entails?
So right now I've been working on my memoir, a book, just outlining my life and how the Mormon Church impacted me.
Mm.
And I've had some amazing conversations with my family members. It's like honest conversations with like my parents. I was like, your church really hurt, um, and this is why. I'm not blaming. Um, it's just this is I'm no longer that little girl that doesn't have a voice, right?
Mm.
And I'm calling it like it is. And there's really a move from we're going to just, or I'm just going to listen to the patriarchy, the patriarch of the family, because that's what I'm told to do.
Mm.
So I can make my own choices. So that's what really this book is about, explaining what my story is. It's a resource for people that are leaving a faith. It's a resource for somebody. Hey, I made some bad decisions. I learned from it. I'm not a bad person. And that's what religion does. It shames you. It tells you behaviors or sins to control you, to control me. This is how I feel the Mormon Church did to me. They said, well, you have sex as a teenager, that's a sin, you're going to hell. Well, not exactly. There's some other decisions I could have made. And it's really my motivation, right, behind
Mm.
these decisions. So I've done the website. I'm putting up resources. I'm just connecting. I never really did social media before. I got on Instagram like a year ago. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to see all these people out there talking about their experience with the Mormon Church or other high demand religions. And
Mm.
I had no idea. And I wish, 20 years ago, we would have had social media and I would have had more support. So I just want to be a resource to people. I'm not trying, I was just telling my sister this. I'm not trying to convince you to leave the Mormon Church. I'm just saying, like, hey, this is how the teachings affected me, and I want to be helpful to other people. So,
Yeah.
so I focused on the book, and then I'm gonna continue a handful of one-on-one therapy clients, and
Yeah, and
I'm available.
yeah, that's going to help so many people, because even those that have left but don't really know what to do, if they pick up that book, that's going to help them. And then they might decide then to work with you.
Mhm.
And as you say, that there's a lot of religions that there is this kind of problem with as well.
Yeah.
That sounds really good, and I'll definitely be reading your book. And for the listeners, I'm going to put details of where you can contact Crystal in the description. If you had to give a message of hope for our listeners who are healthcare professionals and they're struggling with their mental health and feeling alone, what message would you say to them?
Do everything you tell your clients to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very,
very good point.
Everything you're sitting in a session telling your clients to do you do it yourself. Practice what you preach, right? And like how I learned in grad school, you can only take your clients as far as you'll go.
Yeah, and that's really important, because did you say that we make the worst patients because we don't follow our own advice?
Well, so I to deal with my childhood trauma, I went to a lifespan integration therapist because I didn't know what it was. Actually, I started going to her just because she was in town and I liked the way she looked. And then she's like, "Hey, I do lifespan integration, which is an alternative to EMDR, and it's fantastic. It's less vicarious trauma, or you're less likely to re-traumatize a client, which could happen in MDR. I'm not trained in MDR, but I've done lifespan integration as a client, and it helps me a lot. I'm no longer that, hurt 7-year-old. I'm no longer that voiceless teenager. So therapy. Lots of therapy.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. And self-prioritizing, because we can't help others unless we help ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put some details of how people can get in touch with you. If anyone's listening to this thinking, I'd like to get in touch with Crystal, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Go to my website. It is redefinefam.com. And I am starting a resource page on there. And then there's just a little blurb about my story. I'm just starting to build a community.
Brilliant. That's really good. And I can't wait till the book comes out. What's the book called again?
I am still contemplating. So it should be out in a couple months. I will update you. It's editing right now, and I'm contemplating things. But I'm thinking it's going to be Am I Worthy?
Right. Okay.
A therapist, recovery from religious trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But don't, it may change.
Okay, well, it's been great to have you here today. Thank you so much for your insights and for sharing your experiences. That's really helpful, because the aim of this is to help healthcare professionals not feel so alone. So thank you very much.